The attack, yesterday's attacks were not unsurprising in the capital, Brasilia. It is widely known that Bolsonaro supporters follow Trump's playbook. So, this kind of symbolic attack against institutions, that was something that was in the radar of officials. Intelligence officials knew that buses coming from different states of Brazil were arriving in Brasilia on Saturday with protesters, and that those protesters were gathering in front of the of military barracks in Brasilia. Security forces in the capital, they were aware that these attackers, they were gathering in the capital city, but what happens is, as you said, the lack of preparation to properly deal with such an amount of people in the capital. And also there are discussions in Brazil about the politicization of police forces, and to what extent they support Bolsonaro, and they have a lax approach when it comes to containing demonstrations by his supporters.
That is interesting, that sort of support, that tacit support that allowed it to happen. They now say, though, that they're going to crack down further. There'll be more arrests. President Lula has said that they will be, prosecuted if necessary. Do you think they're going to take it far more seriously now?
Yeah, officials and justices of Supreme Court, they have been investigating what happened during the weekend, and the state government of the federal district where Brasilia is located is quite pressured. The Supreme Court last night suspended the governor from office due to his inability to contain and to properly control the situation. The government also issued a arrest warrant against the public security secretary of the federal district, who is a former minister of Jair Bolsonaro. He's in the United States, so there's the suspicions that he traveled to the United States to not be here in the capital Brasilia when these attacks would occur. So this week will be full of investigations, and all governors are traveling to Brasilia today to show support to the government and to democracy. So a number of reactions from political institutions are expected this week.
You talk about, Leandro, how Bolsonaro's supporters, and really right throughout his presidency, they did follow the Trump playbook. There are suggestions, too, that there were people like, say, Steve Bannon through his radio network promoting this violence, inciting this violence. Is there the feeling that they were spurred on by people in the US?
Yes, there is a widely officials really suspect that these connections remain active. Former President Jair Bolsonaro and his inner circle is in the US right now, and in these connections between Bannon and the Brazilian far right, it's documented. Bannon visited the country a few time ago, but the key question right now, that and the key point officials have been investigating, is who is financing these demonstrators. They are camped in front of military barracks across the country, but especially in the capital Brasilia. They have food, they have access to washroom. So who is paying for that? And so investigations now are chasing the who is financing these demonstrations.
Yeah, so it looks like it could be even more sustained than what happened on January 6th in the US. Bolsonaro, as you pointed out, he left before Lula was sworn in. President Lula was sworn in. Do you think he's going to stay in the US? Would he be concerned about facing prosecution should he come back?
He is concerned of facing prosecution. He has a very bad relationship with the judicial power, particularly the Supreme Court, and especially now, given this tense political and security context in the country, he's likely to stay there. Bolsonaro has been cautious when dealing with that. When dealing the weekend's events, he doesn't clearly support the events because he knows that would mean trouble for him, legally speaking. So he said on social media that he doesn't support violent demonstrations, but he's concerned, and he's going to assess all legal risks affecting him and his family before coming back to the country.
Yeah. How do you think this is going to affect President Lula's presidency to have these ongoing protests so early in his term?
That would be a significant challenge for Lula. First of all, that's a new challenge. Let's say for political forces that are clearly anti-democracy. These forces, they were not really influential since the country's redemocratization in 1985. So that's the first time that this political group is really vocal and in questioning political institutions and democracy itself and the electoral process. And the fact is that Lula, that's a new challenge for Lula, and he will need to focus on this before focusing on his broad social and economic agenda. So the weekend's event, I would say these were the saddest day for Brazilian democracy since the end of military dictatorship, and that would be a major governability challenge for Lula.
Yeah, really interesting times, Leandro. Good to have you on. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bev.